Hey everyone, ready to absolutely crush that real estate exam? We are about to dive deep into 30 of the most important and honestly, some of the trickiest questions you're going to see. My job here isn't just to feed you answers. No, we're going to make sure you really get the why behind them. That way, when you walk into that testing center, you're going to feel totally confident. Let's do this.
So here's our game plan. We've broken everything down into 5 big topics. We're starting with how to value property. Then we'll jump into the nitty-gritty of contracts and offers. From there, it's all about your duties as an agent. Then the critical laws you have to know. And we'll finish up with the basics of financing. If you can get a handle on these 5 areas, you are going to be in fantastic shape.
All right, let's get into our first section, valuation and appraisal. This is a huge part of your job, right? It's all about figuring out what a property is really worth.
Okay, let's start with something fundamental that the exam just loves to ask about. What is the real difference between cost and value? I promise you, they are not the same thing, and knowing why is totally essential for understanding how appraisals work.
This brings us right to a classic concept, the law of diminishing returns. It's a really simple idea, but it has huge real-world consequences. So picture this. Your client wants to add a $100,000 swimming pool to their house. The cost is $100,000 for sure, but does it add $100,000 in value? Probably not. That point where you stop getting a dollar-for-dollar return on your improvements, that's diminishing returns. And this is exactly how you'll help your clients make smart choices.
Next up, a super important metric for anyone looking at investment properties, the gross rent multiplier, or GRM. This is really just a quick and dirty way to see if an income property might be a good deal. It's simple. You just take the sale price and divide it by the total monthly rent. A lower number, a lower GRM, usually means it could be a better investment. That's a really easy formula you've got to have in your back pocket.
All right, let's switch gears and move on to Section 2, contracts and offers. Now, this is where it gets really serious, folks. This is the legal backbone of every single deal. You have to know these rules inside and out because one little slip up here can make the whole thing fall apart.
So let's walk through a scenario that you'll see all the time. Your buyer makes a solid offer on a house. The seller comes back, but with a counteroffer. So, legally speaking, what just happened to that original offer your buyer made?
And here it is, plain and simple. A counteroffer isn't just a tweak or a suggestion. Legally, it's a flat-out rejection of the original offer. That first offer, it's dead. It's gone. Void. The counteroffer is a brand new offer. And the big takeaway here is your buyer can't change their mind an hour later and say, you know what, never mind, I'll just take my first offer back. Nope. Once that counter is made, the original offer is off the table for good. And building on that, let's nail down the exact moment a deal becomes a real binding contract. A lot of people get this wrong. They think it's when the seller signs the paper, but that's not it. A contract is only formed the second that acceptance is communicated back to the person who made the offer. It could be an email, a phone call, whatever. That act of communication is what snaps the final piece into place and makes the contract official.
Okay, time for Section 3, agency and duties. This one is all about you. What are your responsibilities? What do you legally and ethically owe to your clients and to the public in general? You can bet the exam is going to hit this hard.
So let's just cut right to it. You have a lot of what we call fiduciary duties to your client, things like care, accounting, disclosure. But of all of them, what is the number one most important duty? The answer is loyalty. This is everything. This is the absolute foundation of your relationship with a client. It just means you have to put your client's interests ahead of everybody else's, and that includes your own. So if you find yourself in a spot where maybe one deal would get you a bigger commission check, but it's not the best deal for your client, well, the choice is already made for you. The client's interests always win, every single time.
But, and this is a really important but, while your loyalty is only for your client, your duty to be honest applies to everyone in the transaction. So you're loyal to your client, but you have to treat the other party and their agent with honesty and fairness. You can't lie about a leaky basement just to get the deal done for your seller. Loyalty is not a license to be dishonest. The exam loves that distinction.
Let's keep it moving. Section 4 is all about disclosures and key laws. This is one of those areas where a little bit of memorization can really pay off. These are the big rules designed to protect the public and to keep you out of legal trouble.
Okay, so what are some of the big ticket items you just have to know? What are the specific laws and time frames you need to commit to memory for the test? Let's highlight a few that show up all the time.
Okay, quick rundown. First, the Sherman Antitrust Act. For your purposes, this means one thing: no price fixing. You can't get together with agents from another company and talk about setting commission rates. It's a huge no-no. Next, CERCLA. When you see CERCLA on the exam, I want you to immediately think of two things: the EPA and cleaning up hazardous waste. That's the connection. And finally, the lead paint disclosure, which is a federal law we're going to look at a little closer.
And speaking of that lead paint disclosure, here's a number you just have to burn into your brain. How long do brokers need to keep copies of those disclosure forms? The answer is 3 years. It's just a simple fact, and the test loves to ask about specific dates and timelines like this one. Just lock it in: 3 years.
All right, we're on the home stretch now. Section 5, Financing Principles. Now look, you don't need to be a mortgage expert, but you absolutely have to understand the basics of how your clients are going to pay for these homes. Let's tackle a really common point of confusion. And you guessed it, it's a favorite exam question. Private mortgage insurance, or PMI. The buyer pays for it, but who is it actually designed to protect?
And this chart says it all, doesn't it? It's a bit of a trick question. Even though the borrower is the one paying for it every single month, PMI provides exactly zero protection for them. If the borrower stops making payments and the house goes into foreclosure, PMI pays the lender to cover their financial losses. The borrower is paying for an insurance policy that only protects the bank. You have to understand that.
So when does a buyer have to get PMI? The rule of thumb is pretty straightforward. It's almost always required when a buyer puts down less than 20%. Another way to say that is their loan-to-value ratio, or LTV, is higher than 80%. The good news is, once they build up 20% equity in the home, they can usually ask the lender to drop the PMI. It's a key number to remember: 20%.
Okay, let's touch on one more financing method you might see. It's not as common as a traditional mortgage, but the exam loves to test these little niche areas. So, what exactly is a contract for deed?
Okay, so think of this as a type of seller financing. It's very different from a bank loan. The buyer makes their payments, usually monthly, directly to the seller. But here's the crucial part. The seller holds on to the actual legal title, the deed, the whole time. The buyer gets to live there, they have what's called equitable title, but they do not get legal ownership until that very last payment has been made. Then and only then does the seller hand over the deed.
So, are you ready for this exam? We've hit on some of the biggest topics: valuation, contracts, your duties, major laws, and financing. You see the logic now, not just the answers. Go back over these concepts, remember those key terms, and just walk into that test with confidence, knowing you've done the work. You are ready for this. You've got this.